Hello!
Hello AOS fans!
It's the agents of Wyrdhollow.
And in this video we're looking at Domitan's Stormcoven.
Stormcoven.
And having a little overview of what we like, what we didn't like, any solid cards, any rubbish cards. Actually not too many rubbish cards in this deck.
No.
There's a few nondescript ones. What I guess its most defining feature is that it has an awful lot of spells in it.
Many spells.
7 spells. So magic is back, baby.
Magic is back.
I'll come on to the spells and stuff in a minute. Have a quick look at the fighters. I mean, they're solid Stormcast fighters. You know what you're getting. They've all got a range 2 and then at least 2 hammer attack,
which is nice.
Gives you a lot
of
flexibility. 3 hammer attack. So yeah, that's really solid. And they also have some good magic attacks uninspired. So they're all range 3 and they've got either 2 focus, and Domitan even has 2 lightnings.
And he goes up to 5 wounds as well when he's inspired.
He does go up to 5. Now the inspiration mechanic is like nothing we've seen before.
It's
unusual, and there is basically no way of having more than 1 fighter inspired at any one time.
Yep.
Which is definitely a bit of a liability because they only have 1 shield, and as we know if we've played this game for any length of time, 1 shield is quite a fragile place to be. Not as fragile as 1 dodge.
No,
but
it's not quite as fragile. But not
1
far
dodge
off.
fighters tend to be expendable.
Yes.
And 1 shield fighters tend not to be.
Yeah, and you've got 4 wounds there. It doesn't take much to jig up a 3 damage attack, and this ping damage a lot.
Yeah, ping damage is around an awful lot. You've got cards like Dark Command, but also I think Grievous is around a lot more. That gives you an extra damage, and also Cleave is around a lot more. So 1 shield is suddenly very,
almost
very nasty.
Less good than dodge. There's less
in snare. There's snare. And now, so when they inspire, basically when you've activated one of them, after you've activated one of them, then you can inspire a different fighter.
Yep.
And that can be a little bit confusing because you have to try and work out, well, who do I want to inspire? Well, I don't want to activate them then because I want them to be inspired. So there are circumstances where you might want to inspire Domitan. He actually stays at 1 shield, but he goes up to 5 wounds. But things like he gains Cleave, and his spell gets Cleave and Grievous. So there are definite times when you want him to be inspired, but that means you can't use him. So you've got to use somebody else.
And when they inspire, they've all got something which generally helps the warband as a whole as
well. Yes, Stratosi makes all the others move. Everybody moves. So she actually goes up to 5 move, which is pretty good.
Pretty swift.
Yeah, but it makes everybody go up 1 move. And one I kept forgetting,
and it gives them all fly as well, doesn't it?
Gives them all fly. The one I kept forgetting is Sarpon. You can push 1 friendly fighter 1 hex when he inspires.
Nice. Which
is pretty good. But like I say, the flip-flopping can be tricky because your opponent knows who to target. Because who is inspired is reasonably obvious, and so you can attack the other ones. Or Domitan. I say Domitan never goes to 2 shields, and there are no cards in here for doing stuff with leaders, as far as I remember.
Which seems almost a bit missed opportunity. But anyway,
I do kind of like the fact that when they're inspired, they're the leader. That's quite a nice thematic. It's thematic and nice. So that's the fighter cards. Let's have a little look at the objectives. Now I've picked out quite a lot because there's some quite good ones. Things like Tempest Fury, score this immediately after a 3rd or subsequent move action made by friendly fighters in the same phase. That actually dovetails really quite nicely with this Tooth and Claw deck if you're playing with those. That's quite nice. They've got Channel the Storm, score this immediately after a 2nd or subsequent friendly fighter became inspired in the same round. Again,
that's almost, as long as you get that when you've got 2 fighters, you've scored that.
Yeah, exactly. That's probably the easiest card to score in their deck. Heavenly Alignment. I like again is a casting roll for a friendly fighter's spell attack action that contains 2 or more magic dice. It's a surge again, and the magic dice has a casting roll that shows a different symbol. Well, getting 2 different symbols on a magic dice is fairly easy.
Yeah.
The Knight's Arcanum is a 2. They've got a few 2s. Score this in end phase if 1 or more inspired fighters are holding an objective in enemy territory. The good thing about this is you don't necessarily have to commit your inspired fighter until the end, if you see what I mean. So if that was in a different warband, you'd be like, well, now they're inspired. Now I've got to charge them onto or move them onto an objective. With this, if the inspired fighter gets knocked off the objective, you can potentially inspire somebody else later. So you've got a bit of backup with that. I mean, it's not always very easy. Scouring Art, score this immediately after a friendly fighter is taken out of action by damage dealt by a spell. Now they've got really solid non-spell attacks, so this can be a bit of a double-edged sword, this one, because you find yourself trying to hit them with two focus to do 1 damage in that. So that's
probably not one you're going to take in the Nemesis deck.
No, but that sort of card was really popular with the Curse Breakers, but I think maybe that was because you could sort of turret up Stormsire and
be throwing 2 damage around.
Doing lots more damage, Knights Triumphant and Conduit of the Heavens are 2 more 2 cards, and one of them's a 2 Glory Surge. Score this immediately after your Warband casts their 4th or subsequent spell in the same round. And I do feel that's a bit of a trap, because that's either four attack actions that are all successful, because they have to be successful, or you've got to draw. You've got to stack your deck with spells, and you've got to draw them as well.
Yeah.
And not all the spells. The problem I have with this is not all the spells necessarily are usable at any
They're not
time.
just do damage or anything like that. They require certain circumstances.
Exactly, exactly right.
But it is a 2 Glory Surge.
It is 2 Glory Surge.
People love 2 Glory Surges.
I do feel like they're a trap. Knights Triumphant, score this in end phase. If each surviving friendly fighter made the Harness the Ether reaction in the preceding action phase, and you've got 2 or more left alive. That's pretty easy to score for 2 Glory, because that basically is the Harness the Ether one is the flip-flopping the inspiration. So as long as you've activated all 3 fighters, then or both fighters, you can change their inspiration status and score Knights Triumphant. And they've got 17 Glory total, which is pretty solid.
It's not a bad ceiling for a glory count, and there's no objectives in there that are going to give you like more than the glory that's on the card.
No,
so.
I don't think so. Unless I didn't pick them out of my selection, but I don't think so.
But 17's pretty solid. I think that's a reliable number.
Power cards then. 3 spells of note. I think the spells are funny, because they're often not as good as you might hope.
Yeah.
Because there's a inherent risk in that they may just not come off. But some of note are Blaze of Heavens, which requires a focus. If cast, choose 1 enemy fighter within X hexes of the caster, where X is 3 plus the number of other friendly wizards within 2 hexes of the caster. That's pretty good for this warband, because they're all wizards all the time.
There's wizards everywhere.
Deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter. So that's ping damage. Ping damage is never to be sneezed at.
No.
Azerite Hero, another focus. If cast, -1 dice from enemy attack actions to a minimum of 1 made by enemy fighters adjacent to this fighter. This effect persists until the end of the round. Again, in certain circumstances, that's really great. I don't know whether I carry it. There's an awful lot of range 2 attacks, and if you're fighting against out of the core Wyrdhollow box, there are almost no. Well, there's a couple of range 1 attacks, but
nearly everybody's range 2 or more.
Yeah.
Some of them have range 1 attacks, but one of them has an extra range on it as well. So
Howling Gates I do really like, actually, which again is a focus. If cast, choose 2 enemy fighters in the same territory. Push each chosen fighter up to 1 hex close to the other chosen fighter. If the chosen fighters are now adjacent, stagger the chosen fighters.
that can be really nice if you're up against a horde warband, and especially if they're trying to grab objectives as well. Play that near the end of the round before they score supremacy or whatever. Like, oh look, not only are you not scoring that, but you're both staggered as well.
Yes, I can't be right at the end of those. There's no point staggering them. But if it can be
even if
really
you're just
good.
going for that disruption though, it still causes problems. But if you play it earlier in the round, could be like with the lizardmen. You don't want them all on 3 objectives. So you can play that and you can stagger them as well. So
the stagger is pretty solid. Although not so useful necessarily, because the spell attacks don't benefit from stagger.
That's true. Yes.
So. Other power.
Nobody's do. Just to point that out, it's not just them.
No.
Anti-Stormcaster.
It has to be a melee attack.
Or at least an attack dice attack.
An attack dice attack, yes, sorry. So other ploys, you've got pass the mantle, choose a friendly fighter, the chosen fighter is inspired, then uninspire each other friendly fighter. So basically it's their harness the ether, or whatever it's called, reaction in Carful. I don't actually know how useful that is. I mean, I guess there are times when you really, really want to swap the fighter, but
Maybe sometimes, but not often.
Aura of Power. Choose an enemy fighter that is adjacent to 1 or more friendly fighters. Stagger the chosen fighter. Pretty useful. And Positive Charge. +1 dice to the first range 1 or 2 attack actions made by a friendly fighter in the next activation step. In addition, they get +1 move for the first charge super action made by an inspire friendly fighter in the next activation step. Could be useful. But +1 dice is always useful.
Always nice.
Yeah. Upgrades. There aren't many brilliant upgrades, actually, I have to say, but they have got a set of quite nice buffs. So you've got charged weapons. The fighters' range 1 and 2 attack actions, other than spell attack actions, have Grievous 1 if you've cast 1 or more spells in the round. They've got the Liber Fulminus, which is +1 range, so this fighter's range 2 plus spell attack actions. Nice. Quite useful. Nice. The Blades of Azir. The fighter's range 2 attack actions are range 3 and have stagger.
That's quite nasty.
That is range 3, because their range 2 attack actions are brutal.
Because they're like, when inspired, they're like 3 hammers, 2 damage or something?
Yeah. Well,
that's nasty.
certainly Sarpon's is. That's absolutely brutal. And I think
especially again if you're up against a low wound warband with lots of models, having that range 3, just being able to stand in the middle and twat people.
Domitan's is only 2 hammers, but it's 3 damage. It's 2 hammers, 3 damage with cleave.
That's nasty.
Yeah.
Even mid-range to slightly more elite warbands are going to not like that.
No, that's a really brutal attack. I think that is probably the best upgrade they have. But there's also Scrolls of the Spellseeker. When this fighter attempts to cast a spell, change each symbol in the casting value of the spell to lightnings. Now, you may have noticed that all the spells that I picked as being interesting are all focus.
All swirlish.
And that is a really strong card. And I really missed it. We played our second game. I played with the Magic Rivals deck, and I really missed that card because
it's nice to get that.
Getting down to lightnings is so you definitely, even if you were playing Nemesis and you just picked one card to go with the Magic deck, you pick that one because it makes most of them, not all of them, but most of them, even their Azurite bolts better, however you put it on. So that's a really good card.
So I think overall, they're your typical Stormcast warband. They're really solid. They're elite. They're potentially a little bit more brittle than your average Stormcast warband because they're only running 1 shield. And whereas most, when they inspire, they're going to then at least be rolling 2 shields all the time. They drop back down when someone else inspires. But I think the Magic gives them a lot of utility there. And combining them with the Magic deck, there's going to be zip-zaps flying all over.
Yeah, I haven't done that yet. We'll be doing that in a future game to see how that goes together. They're quite mobile for a Stormcast thing as well, because you've got a movement 4 fighter, but she can boost them all to 4.
Yes,
herself to 5.
And she goes to 5. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is
and give them fly. So you're like lethal hexes. I don't care about those.
Yeah.
Blocked hexes. Who cares about that?
Yeah, so you've got some serious mobility for a Stormcast warband, which I suppose reflects the fact that their defense isn't always as good.
Yeah. So overall, I think they're quite a scary warband to come up against. But to pilot them, you're going to have to be careful to make sure you get your inspires in the right place and balance that properly.
Yeah.
I think this warband's going to do great with the Magic deck out of the box. I think that's a given. Tooth and Claw as well, I think they're going to have a lot of options with because they're a nice elite warband. They're always going to be charging. They're going to be remembering their ABCs. So I don't think they're going to be your typical Fearsome Fortress type deck or things like that.
No, I think they're a bit brittle for Fearsome Fortress. You don't want to be leaving them still.
And they've not got many things that will stop them getting pushed around.
No.
So you don't want to be wasting activations going on guard with them.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be an in-your-face, but zapping everybody with lightning at the same time.
Yeah, I think I would definitely want to see how they work out with the Magic deck and Tooth and Claw. I mean, Tooth and Claw is strong anyway, and actually, if you imagine combining Tooth and Claw with some of these range non-spell attacks that they've got, you completely go no spells and just use their base attacks with Tooth and Claw buffs. I think they could be very, very painful.
Yeah.
So there we go. That was Domitan's Stormcoven.
Do let us know in the comments what you like about them, what you're worried about them, and your favourite cards. If you've got any questions, do ask as well. And don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that bell. And if you're feeling generous, check us out on Patreon.
Absolutely. And see you soon in the Wyrdhollow.